How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Season 2 of Short Orders. We've returned, following a short summer break. We were trying our best to beat the heat, but in the end, I still think the heat kind of beat us. Which is why we're dedicating this episode to one of the summer's most refreshing, cooling, and energizing beverages. Four Loko.
Wait a minute.
No, that isn't true. Four Loko is an abomination that needs to be relegated to the trash heap of horrible ideas, and we shall never speak its name again. Though, I have to admit, I myself went through a brief Coke Black phase. That's black, B-L-A-Q. Remember that product? Coca-Cola mixed equal parts with cold coffee and sold in cute little 8-ounce bottles. It came and went sometime in the early 2000s. It smelled like sweet dirt and tasted like pure addiction. There's a strong possibility that I was the target market for that stuff. No, not my demographic, but me, personally. I don't actually believe it had a very wide consumer appeal, but you know what does? Cold brewed coffee. And that's why we're beginning a multi-part look at this particular delicious beverage. Here in part 1, we'll dive into what cold brew is and from whence this magical elixir arose. As legend has it, 17th century Dutch traders working in the South Pacific needed something to quell both the heat and exhaustion that came with navigating old wooden ships near the equator. The sailors supposedly brought Indonesian coffee with them, where the idea to slowly brew a concentrate using room temperature water took hold. Enjoying the taste and ease of brewing and storage, the sailors brought the drink back with them to Europe, where it slowly took hold in the cafe scene. Now, there's no concrete evidence whether or not that was really how cold brew began its journey around the world, but there is some documentation regarding how it first entered into mainstream American cafe culture. In 1963, a recent graduate of Cornell University, while in Peru with his wife, was served a cup of coffee which was prepared with a liquid concentrate at its base. Not only did he enjoy this cup, but he also realized his wife, too, was able to drink it, despite her having a severe acid sensitivity. So that guy was Todd Simpson, founder of the aptly named Toddy Coffee Company. I won't go into further details about them, but do know that Toddy in many ways became shorthand for cold brewed coffee here in the States. But back to the lady with the acid sensitivity. Why was she able to drink this cold brewed concentrate without suffering any of the standard unpleasantries that would normally come with drinking coffee? The reason for this is good old-fashioned science, and the way in which certain compounds found in roasted coffee react at certain temperatures. For instance, when you're brewing with hot water, you're pulling out all of the compounds from the grounds that are heat-soluble, as well as the water-soluble compounds. Now, these heat-soluble compounds often lead to bitterness in coffee and highlight the beverage's natural acidity. This can lead to heartburn, sore throats, headaches, and other symptoms for some drinkers with a sensitivity. But, unlike with traditional heat-dependent brewing, cold brew only extracts the water-soluble compounds. Leaving out the heat-dependent, bittering compounds is what gives cold-brewed coffee its creamy mouthfeel and subtle molasses-like sweetness, even when consumed straight without creamer or syrups. It's also what highlights other flavor notes in beans that may not be as traceable in hot-brewed coffee. Beyond that, a lot of heat-soluble compounds in coffee are delicate and decay rapidly, which is why a robust, delicious cup of hot coffee often tastes like pure dumpster trash by the time it cools, even to room temperature. Smooth segue time. So, how is cold brew actually made? Much like with standard brewing, when coffee grounds come into contact with water, a process called extraction occurs. During extraction, the soluble compounds in the coffee, in this case just the water-soluble ones, such as caffeine, but also oils, sugars, and melanoidins, are dissolved, and impart different flavors and different notes into the final product. The goal in making cold brew is to extract these desirable compounds while minimizing the extraction of the bittering and astringent agents. Now, this isn't to say that cold brew is a superior method to classic coffee brewing. It's just a different way to do it. In fact, there's many benefits to brewing with hot coffee. For example, a higher antioxidant rate in most hot brewed coffees, And beyond that, there's different flavor notes that will arise when your coffee is brewed using the standard hot method. And even beyond that, it's just one of life's great pleasures to sit with a hot cup of coffee on a cool morning.
That rich aromatic blend is your best morning friend. Starts you out feeling good, the day goes like it should.
Okay, so that's some background on cold brew, but how is it actually made? The brewing process itself is done using cold or room temperature water, obviously. Cold water has less energy than hot water, so the extraction process is slower. Much, much slower. Typically between 12 to 24 hours. This prolonged steeping allows for a gradual and gentle extraction of the coffee's flavors. The longer steeping time compensates for the lower temperatures of the water, ensuring that the coffee extracts enough of its desirable compounds. One key to making quality cold brew is grind size, and really, the further you dig into coffee culture, the more you realize just how important grind is to the extraction of a good cup. In the case of cold brew, we're looking for a fairly coarse grind. Larger particles provide less surface area for extraction, helping to reduce the likelihood of over-extraction and bitterness. Additionally, they make the filtration process easier, resulting in a smoother final product. Once the steeping is complete, the cold brew coffee must be filtered to separate the liquid from the coffee grounds. Filtration ensures that no undesirable sediment or grit ends up in the final product. A fine mesh sieve, coffee filter, or specialized cold brew coffee maker is typically used for this purpose, and we'll get into far more detail about what works best in different situations in a later episode. So, that's the nutshell rundown for the how and why of cold brew, but there are several ways to brew, serve, and consume it, and we'll learn some of those in the next installment of this series. Whether it's slowly steeped, pulled from a nitrogenated keg, or blended with herbs and other flavors, the idea of what cold brew is and can be is expanding rapidly. And we'll dig into all of that and more next time. But for now, we'd like to say thanks to Service Ideas and Barista Magazine for supplying us with information for this episode. We've got links to some videos and reading material in the description if you want to take a deeper dive into everything we've discussed today. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Short Orders wherever you listen to your podcast. It really does help us. And as always, thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again real soon.